Received this email from a potential customer asking about one of the features of Sketchulation. It says, "Hi Mike, thanks for checking in. We've been exploring Sketchulation and came across a few, quote, nice to have features that we think could really enhance the workflow. For instance, we're working on a file to design mass timber custom hangers based on applied loads. Is there a way to input dimensions so that a particular sketch within Sketchulation automatically updates to reflect those changes? Say we initially create a custom plate at length 8 inches and later want to adjust it to length 12 inches. Rather than redrawing the sketch, can the software update the sketch dynamically just by changing the value of the dimension expression slash a specific user-defined variable? Let me know if you want me to explain further. I appreciate any insights that you can share." Well, the answer is yes. Sketchulation can do property assignments from expressions. It's I'll show an example of how that works here. And first, I'll just go ahead and show my keyboard monitor so you can see what I'm typing as I go along. In Sketchulation, you have expressions that can assign properties to entities. And so let's say, for example, I have a rectangle. Now I'm going to draw this rectangle with lines. Let's say it's 8 inches long to start with. And I'll just grab this line and bring it down 12 inches. And then we'll have another line that goes up and another line that goes up. So that makes sort of our hanger plate, a rectangle. Now you'll notice I drew this as lines instead of like a shape or a polyline. And the reason for that is that we can assign the locations of the endpoints of a line, but currently there's no way to assign the location of a particular point within a shape or a polyline. So that's sort of a limitation of the program right now. But let's say we also have a couple of dimensions here I'll put on that show the sort of the height of the plate and the width like that. Okay, and currently we have 2 dimensions here. W equals 8 inches, and say h is equal to 12 inches. Okay, so far we have a rectangle and a couple of expressions, and these things are completely separate. Now, if we want to, what we want to do is basically be able to assign these endpoints of the dimensions and the lines based on these dimensions. So what I'll do here is I'll first want to tag everything that needs to change. So we have these 4 lines and then these dimensions here. I'll start with the lines and I'll do an auto tag. And I'll just give them a prefix E, and then they'll increment E1 to 4 like that. So now all these lines are tagged, so I can reference them in expressions. I'll also tag this dimension. I have a shortcut command, TG, and I set this would be DH, dimension of the height, and then this one, DW, dimension width. Now you'll notice the tags are not showing for the dimensions. That's just the default setting. If I go to modify properties, I can display the tag. Normally I can display the tag. I guess for dimensions we have to look at that. It doesn't show the tags, but they are there, DH and DW. Okay, so now I have my tags set up, and I'm going to now create the expressions that are going to control the way that this rectangle looks. So I'll go off the page because when you print this, you don't necessarily want the reader to see this. So what we first want to define is the base point. That'll be this first point of that entity E1. So we'll call that P0 is equal to int prop E1, and this will be 0.0 like that. Okay, and I can display the value of that point. So that line there is going to be the only that's going to be the only independent piece of this drawing. Okay, now I'm going to make another expression, P1. That would be, say, the top point of the line E2. So P1 is going to be equal to P0 plus, and now I'm going to use an array. So that's the square brackets, 0, comma, semicolon, H. So that's going to produce a point P1, like that. And then I'll go ahead and produce point P2, which would say be the second point of the line E1. So I'll copy this expression. P2 is going to be equal to P0, and here we go over with the width, but we don't go up at all. And so now we have point P2 defined, and similarly point P3. This one is going to go for both to the right, W, and up, H. So now I have 4 points defining that rectangle based on these parameters, the width and the height. Okay, so now we just need to assign these things. So we're going to use the property assigner, which works as follows. I'll select the expression that yields the value that I want to assign to a particular entity. I type MO, modify properties. So this point P1 is going to assign to several things. It's going to assign to the end of this dimension, and also to one of the points of E4 and one of the points of E2. So I click this button here within the drop down for the property assigner, and I select all 3 of these guys. So I have the dimension of the height, E2, and E4. So what do we want to do? We want to set the extent 1, that's the second point of the dimension. We want to set that to the value of point P1, like that. And then the line E2, we want to set the point P1, or point 1 for that entity, to the value of P1. And then E4 would be 0.0, like that. Okay, so now P1 is assigning to all of those things. P0 is going to assign to the extent of the dimension dh here. Now you'll notice that we don't do anything. We're reading the one of the endpoints from the line E1, so we don't want to assign anything to that point. That would be a redundant assignment. So we set that here. Okay, now we move on to point P2. P2 wants to be the endpoint of E1 and also one of the endpoints of E3. So I do the same thing, and also the dimension too. So we select all of those things. So E3, it's going to be the first point, which is P0. E1, it's going to be the second point. And then the dimension is going to be extent 1. Oh, and I forgot also with P0, we want to assign to the width extent 0, like that. Okay, so we've got those two, and then now lastly the P3. We take these 2 lines here. So E3 would be the second point, and E4 would also be the second point, like that. And so now if we change the height, let's say it grows the rectangle, change the width, it grows the rectangle, like that. Okay, and that is how you create property assignments. Now, a couple of words of caution. If you create this set of expressions and then you go and you try to copy it like this, things are not going to work out anymore. You're going to have a bunch of redundant assignments. You may be able to disambiguate all of these things by creating a new expression system, like that. And then selecting everything and changing the expression system, CXS, that's what's the command, like that. And so now everything is disambiguated, and I can change this to 8 inches. But you'll notice that these lines are no longer linked. And so copying these things does not keep the assignments. These assignments would all have to be redone. And so that's probably something that we can affect in the future as an enhancement. But currently, this property assigner thing is sort of a one-off drawing thing. So we might try one other thing, which is that we could push Control C and Control V. Now, when I copy and paste using Control C, Control V, I can decide to go ahead and paste on the current expression system. When you just do a normal copy, it doesn't change the expression system. So now when I push Control V, these guys should automatically be on the new expression system. You see that? And in this context, it does work. I can go ahead and affect these things this way, and the assignments stay updated. Okay. Now let me just show you, my preference is actually not to do this sort of live drawing thing, because you see it's a fairly bit complicated. What I normally would like to do is maybe I'll make a new page here. Sort of a different workflow would be, I'll go ahead and make a new expression system, and I'll draw a rectangle, REC, and I'll put it dimensions 12, 16. Okay, so now this is my new rectangle, and I'll use an expression dimension here, and I'll call this W. Now this is unique and unambiguous relative to these other assignments of W, because I have it in a different expression system. Now I make the same thing for my height, like that. And now when I want to see what those dimensions are, say in the expressions, I would just do the request for value operator, like that. And so here I have a rectangle. Now, in this workflow, it's the shape that's dictating, well, it's actually the dimensions that are dictating how the calculations work. And in this context, you can just stretch these things. And so the calculations always stay updated with the sketch, but you don't have all this extra baggage of these expressions on the side. So it's a different workflow. It's sort of, do you prefer to set a dimension in the expression and have it update the drawing, versus you update the drawing and that influences the expressions? All right, hopefully that addresses the question and gets you thinking about more things you can do with Sketchulation.